Well, hello, my friends. My name is Terry Petrovic, and for the past 26 years, I've been teaching, coaching, and training people how to start small businesses. We are in a very unique time right now, and I know some people are coming from a place of fear, others are coming from a place of faith, others are coming from a place of how do I reinvent myself? Well, I think now is a great time for each and every one of us to kind of think about how we can contribute more and how we can be part of this quote unquote pandemic of 2020. I predict that there's going to be lots of new things coming out of this, including probably the baby boom of 2020. Well, I reached out and had a conversation with a friend of mine. His name is Mike Robbins, and if you don't know Mike, the guy is absolutely amazing. He's a very much sought after speaker, trainer. He's written 5 books. He's spoken to Google, Wells Fargo, Microsoft, NBA sports, football teams, and the whole 9 yards. And he's got a unique mindset, and I asked Mike to kind of share a little bit about his new book. But before we jump into that, I want to say, Mike, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Terry. Happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about these 5 books that you've written before. What was the base premise of some of those books? Take us through that journey on how you got to where you are today.
Well, I appreciate you putting all 5 of them up. My first book, Focus on the Good Stuff, came out in 2007. It's about the power of appreciation. And then I wrote a book pretty soon after that called Be Yourself, Everyone Else Is Already Taken, which is about the power of authenticity. I took about a 5-year break in between books. Quite frankly, it was like we went through a recession. We had 2 babies, and I wrote 3 books in the span of about, I wrote 2 babies, I wrote 2 books in the span of about 3 years. So it was like I was a little bit exhausted and needed to take a breath and sort of figure out what I was doing. Then my 3rd book, Nothing Changes Until You Do, is really about mindset and sort of how we relate to ourselves. And then I shifted gears a little bit because a lot of my work, Terry, over the last 20 years has focused with a lot of these companies that you mentioned in organizations, but I'd never actually written books about sort of leadership and teamwork. So my last 2 books, Bring Your Whole Self to Work, which came out in 2018, was really about how do we show up authentically at work and how can we lead from a place of authenticity. And then as kind of a follow-up to that book, I wrote We're All in This Together as a way to sort of double click on the 5th and final principle of Bring Your Whole Self to Work, which is it's called Create a Championship Team. But I felt really moved to write this book and to call it We're All in This Together, not knowing it was going to come out in the midst of this pandemic.
And when did you start that book?
I started writing it in 2018, right after Bring Your Whole Self to Work came out. I got this really clear message. It was like a download, like you have to write another book, follow up from Bring Your Whole Self to Work. It's going to be about teamwork, and it's going to come out in 2020, and it needs to be called We're All in This Together. And it was literally like, where is that voice coming from? Because I was looking up to the sky saying, no, thank you. I need a break. I'm doing other things. But it was really strong, and the title was really strong. And when I pitched the book, my editor and my agent and my publisher and everybody involved, they were all into the book, but nobody liked the title, or they didn't want me to use it. And I was adamant. I'm like, no, we have to use this title. This means a lot to me. It really kind of encapsulates my philosophy on teamwork and on life. And especially in this world, Terry, right now where things are so divisive in so many ways, It's like, hey, I think we've sort of forgotten. I don't understand, like, who's the them? Isn't it all us? Like, and I don't mean to be overly naive about it, but both from a team perspective, but just from a life and spiritual and cultural perspective, I've always sort of felt like with all the different people I've had the honor to meet over the course of my life and travel around the US and around the world, the closer I get to people, even when they're super different than I am, different values and beliefs, and they look different and different, all the differences. And when I get really close and we start talking and we start opening up as humans, I realize I don't think we're that different.
Right.
I think down below the surface, we're way more alike than we're different. And what great teams know and great leaders know is that it's about finding that sense of common ground, respecting and appreciating the differences, but knowing and believing and understanding that there's so much that makes us similar. And when we can really tap into that, that's when something great comes out in our groups and our teams and our communities and our world.
So do you believe right now there is a major shift or emphasis in terms of why people are using the phrase, we're all in this together?
Well, yeah, I mean, so, the book came out just recently, a few weeks ago. And as we were leading up to it, and we go into the pandemic, and then I start getting all these text messages from people like, the president of the United States just said we're all in this together, or Tom Hanks just said we're all in this. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I'm looking at my wife going, this is strange, right? This is not. Well, and then I started to think about, well, why are people using this for, and I think because, look, I think we know intuitively, Terry, when we're facing something challenging like this, we know, okay, I can't figure this out myself. I'm not going to be able. I mean, it's part of what in life, what often turns people to faith, what turns people to different things, what has us reach out just to other humans is like, I'm struggling with something. I'm faced with a challenge that I don't know how to address. We need to not only reach out personally, but come together, and collectively, we're more likely to get through this than we are individually. And so I think we know that. When we take it out of the context of the pandemic, I think we also know if we're going to create anything that really means anything to us, we got to do it with others. And again, so just when we have a big goal or a big vision, we realize I can't make that vision happen by myself. I'm going to need a lot of other people who have skills and talents and things that I don't have. So I think right now, though, there's this sense and understanding that, yes, we're all dealing with this pandemic differently with different circumstances, and the nature of our business, the nature of where we live in the country, things are a little different probably in North Carolina than here in California. But at the same time, collectively, we're all in this, probably for the first time ever in our lives, across the globe, we're all dealing with the same macro challenge, and we got to figure out how we leverage each other's, support and strength and insight in order to get through it.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment the other day, and I thought it was an interesting one. I'd love to get your perspective on it. One person said, we're all in the same boat. And then somebody else commented and said, we're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same ocean, because there are different types of boats.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good metaphor of, being in different boats, but in the same ocean. Or I've heard people say even we're in the same storm. I mean, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because the truth is, like, your boat looks different than my boat. And let's be honest, I think we can all look around right now, and we probably know someone, and maybe many people, whose boat looks a little nicer than ours. And this is true in life in general. But we also, if we tell the truth, realize, oh my goodness, I'm really fortunate to be in the boat that I'm in. And it's not about comparing per se, but it's about being mindful of the fact, like, I talk to a lot of leaders and a lot of business owners and people who are struggling with, well, how do we get everybody working from home and still engaged? And then I talk to other people in different businesses who are like, my business is shut down. I did a thing with, a group that they own and run a bunch of health clubs. And they had to lay everybody off for the time being, because there's no one going to the health clubs, at least not here in California. And that, so again, without, the person I'm talking to who works for the tech company that now has to work from home, and they've got their spouse at home and their kids, and it's challenging. I try to respectfully remind them, hey, I know it's stressful to work from home, but let's be fortunate that we can work from home or work remotely, versus if you work at a restaurant or at a shopping mall or somewhere where you can't go to work right now because there is no work. Or if you own a business that is contingent upon the fact of people being in physical places, that's not happening. And a lot of us are having to pivot in a lot of ways. Like, I basically have made a living for the last 20 years, Terry, going out in the world and speaking at live events with human beings there. That's not happening for a while, at least. So I've had to adjust myself, and I'm doing a lot on video these days that I wasn't doing a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a new world, and we have to adapt. And, I love the fact that your first book was written on gratitude. I think if no matter what happens, my wife and I believe only good things happen to us, and the proverbial stuff can be hitting the fan, but if we stop and pause, we know there's some blessings in there. And I think if you create a culture, if you will, and a team, if you will, that comes from a place of gratitude, and that just kind of makes everything flow a lot better.
It's so true. And the thing about gratitude and appreciation, it's both challenging and important all the time, but for different reasons. So when things are going well, one of the things we have a tendency to do in life, Terry, right, especially in our culture, things are going well, we kind of take it for granted.
Right.
And we're on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And like, again, you think in sports, it's like the team wins the championship. And what's the first question? Can you win another one?
That's right.
Hey, can we stop and appreciate that we just won the championship? Like, that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And then when things, so the tendency is that we don't smell the roses. We don't appreciate the journey. We're not enjoying it as we're going. We're just so focused on the next one, the next one. And look, we idolize people. I mean, right now we're all watching, and I'm loving the Michael Jordan documentary, but it's like we idolize Michael Jordan, who I think is extraordinary for being like this maniacal winner who just wants to keep winning and keep winning and keep winning. You know, Michael Jordan didn't really embody a sense of, hey, let me appreciate the talent that I have and what I get to do. There was this sense of like, I'm going to be a champion. Yeah. And that kind of gets celebrated in our culture. Now, on the flip side, when things are really bad or challenging, like they are for a lot of people right now, the tendency is to like, well, if I go to appreciate things, like what is there to appreciate? I just lost my job, or I'm sick, or things aren't going well, or those of us who might be able to count our blessings. I've been noticing this, while it's so important right now for us to be grateful and to count our blessings, it's actually kind of hard to do. You know, do I go on Facebook and talk about how grateful I am? And the reality is there are people that are really suffering. So it's like, oh, now it feels a little vulnerable to acknowledge, I feel grateful that like no one's sick in my house and we're doing okay. But then I kind of feel guilty because I know other people aren't. So we have a weird relationship with it. So it's important for us to embrace gratitude and appreciation in an authentic way all the time.
Right. How does that play into teams and team environment? And what's the difference between a good team and a great team, Mike?
I think, look, there's a number of things, but I think one of the distinctions that I make is the difference between a team of champions and a championship team. And it's subtle, but it's different. Like, look, if we're struggling as a team, people aren't performing well, the team's not doing well, or we're dealing with circumstances like right now where it's like, hey, the environment's really tough. Oftentimes what we focus on is how do we get into that place where people start performing better, and that's that sort of winning mindset, championship mindset. And look, I'd rather have a team of champions than a team of losers, right? Let's be honest. Like that's better. But ultimately what we really want, what makes the difference between a good team and a great team is this sense of being a championship team, which means I put the goals and the vision of the team above my own. One of the distinctions that I also make is the difference between our job and our role. So our role is what we do. And again, if I own the business or I run the business or I have a really senior role, my role is really important. Or even if I'm more junior, it's like most of us take pride in our roles. Like in sports, right? I was a pitcher. My role was either a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher. I played baseball for a long time. I loved doing that. But my job, both in sports and even now as a member of any team, my job is to help the team win. That's my job. And the teams that understand, if everyone on the team takes on the mindset of that my job individually is to help the team win. If we put our role above our job, now we're more interested in, did I get credit? Do I look good? Do people know how good I am? Do I get promoted? And it's not to say we don't have personal ambition or personal goals.
Sure.
Those are totally healthy. They just can't be more important than the team goals, or else the team's going to suffer. Because again, I'm not going to proverbially pass you the ball, even if you're open, because I want to score the bucket because I want the credit. Do you know what I mean? And we see this happen in business. Like, I want to close the deal. I want to get credit for it instead of what's best for the business, what's best for the moment. And right now it's challenging because, like, I don't know about you, Terry, but I feel like we're all having to pivot and do different things, but I'm having to flex some muscles that aren't very strong for me. And without being arrogant, I think I'm pretty good at what I do, and I've been doing it for a while, but it's like I'm being asked, and I'm asking people on my team to do stuff that none of us have had to do before. And we're all having to kind of learn together. But if we have the mindset of whatever we need to do to help the team win, then we can be a great team, even in the midst of a challenge. But if we're focused on how do I do the best job I can do, now we're going to be moving in different directions.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about what leaders and teams should be focusing on right now during this time, and how we not only navigate this situation, this environment that we're in, but how we learn and grow and succeed in this situation.
I think it's challenging. And I think the first thing we have to acknowledge is that it's challenging. I mean, if your business is doing really great during this time, which some businesses are, not many, but some, be incredibly grateful, but realize the macro environment is challenging. If your business is somewhere in the middle, like, well, it's doing okay, but it's struggling here and we're not really sure, we're waiting to see. Or if your business is really, really struggling, which is true for a number, I think we have to first and foremost just tell the truth about where we're at and acknowledge that we're in an environment right now that none of us have ever been in.
Right.
It's unknown. It's uncertain. And so that's like just a level setting. I think of this, like my friend Chip Conley wrote a book a few years back called Peak, and it was all about using Maslow's hierarchy of needs in a business context. And he basically took Maslow's 5 different needs on the pyramid and broke them down into 3, that the base level is about survival, the middle level is about success, and the top level of the pyramid is about transformation. And I think businesses, that we got to focus on our survival first and foremost, like in life, and right now especially, can we survive this and get through it? What adjustments do we need to make? What hard decisions? Can we focus on success, meaning, continuing to serve our clients or our business, our customers, continuing to generate revenue and focus? And do we still have a little bit of focus and attention on transformation, which what you and I were talking about earlier, we are going to have to change and transform the way we do business. But if we're focused on all 3 of those levels, knowing that we can't really focus on success or transformation if we don't first and foremost focus on survival, but we can't stay in survival mode the whole time. Like, that's not going to ultimately get us to where we want to be, but we can't be oblivious to the fact that if we don't survive, we can't succeed and we won't be able to transform.
Interesting. Yeah, I think some people are in a place right now where they know they need to do some things different. Maybe they've had that success before, but it's the courage maybe, or there's some block preventing them from breaking through. Any insight or advice there?
Look, absolutely. I mean, I think what stops most of us in times like this, or just in general, is something that's very normal and universal and human. It's fear, right? And understandably, business owners and people, I mean, I think about this a lot. It's like, I care a lot about my team and my employees. I care a lot, obviously, about my family. I care a lot about our clients and the people that we serve. And in a situation where we're in a new world, which we are, at least temporarily here, one of the fears that goes on in my own head is like, don't screw this up, don't blow it. You got people counting on you. And so again, that's normal, that's human. But just like I learned all those years as an athlete, Terry, fear doesn't have to stop us. It can inform us and we can pay attention to it. But one of the ways that we can break through our fear is not by sucking it up and pushing through and pretending like we have no fear. It's acknowledging it. But also, this is the really important thing, is reaching out for help and support. Right. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but like, if you tell me about the things you're worried about, while I will have empathy and understanding and appreciate it, they're not scaring me in the same way. So I might actually have some real insight and wisdom into what might help you with some of the things that are scare you in your life and your business. Just like you with me, other people's issues and challenges are often easier for us to deal with than our own, because we're not emotionally attached. Right. So I'm not reaching out to everybody, but to people that are mentors, that are friends, that are counselors, that really can advise us, and even sometimes to our own team, but not feeling like we have to figure it all out ourselves. Again, we're all in this together, and remembering that can help push us past some of the blocks that we may have right now.
That's awesome. So, Mike, I want to say thanks for spending some time with us. But if somebody wants to follow you, learn a little bit more from you, get some insights from you, where's the best place for them to follow you and connect with you?
The best place is at our website, which is mike-robbins.com. I mean, I'm on all the social channels and whatnot, but the website has all the info about the work we do, and you can connect with me on social and podcast and everything else there.
Well, I appreciate you again, Mike, for spending some time with us. And I just want to say thank you for the work you do. But I think more important than that is thank you for being who you are and the light that you are beaming out to so many people right now. Because now more than ever, I think people need that leadership. They need that guide. They need that hope. And where you come from and that journey with that first book 20 years ago is kind of evolved into who you are and what you do today. So keep rocking it, man. I look forward to staying connected with you and maybe chat with you again somewhere down the road. And just want to say thanks, man.
You're welcome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You bet. My friend, I know you got some value out of this. Be sure you connect with Mike on his website, on social media. Fantastic guy, great mentor, great teacher. Remember this as you navigate your own journey through this COVID-19 ocean, if you will. There's so much that we all have to be grateful for. And I believe that each and every one of us can bring prosperity to others and serve others. And when we do that, it always comes back to us. My name is Terry Petrovic. Remember this, you do have a choice. Make it a better than terrific day and a prosperous one. Until next time, bye-bye for now.